Granada Community Services District. Call the meeting to order.
We're missing David here, so.
I'll just wait for David to join. There he is.
There he is.
We call this meeting to order. If you want to take a roll call.
President Barbara Dye.
Here.
Vice President Matthew Clark.
Here.
Director Jim Blanchard.
Here.
Director David Seaton.
Here.
Director Eric Sukamel.
Here.
And also present is General Manager Chuck Duffy, Legal Counsel Bill Parkin, and Delia Comito, which is me, the Assistant General Manager, and I believe Claudia Marshall as well, our Parks Coordinator, is here.
Great. Okay, welcome everyone. Yes, we will. We just had a closed session, and Bill, is there anything?
No portable actions.
All right, thank you. Do we have any public participation for items that are not on the agenda?
Oh, can I put this?
Yes, let me do that right after
Okay,
this.
all right.
Seeing no indication that people want to speak on items not on the agenda, let us move to a discussion of the chipping program. Is that what you have to share?
No, this is actually our regular drop-off day. For Recology is picking this up again. We've missed, several their quarterly events. We haven't had any because of COVID. They're starting it up October 24th. So
this is the big item, difficult item drop off.
And they'll have it at the Burnham Strip. You do have to wear a mask and stay in your car.
And it's for Granada residents only.
For Granada, everybody within the district, Miramar, Princeton.
Yes, of course, GCSD. And then we should also talk about the chipping days, which I don't have the dates right in front of me, but the RCD is working with the fire district to provide a service to residents where you can cut branches in your yard and then leave them in your driveway, and someone will come around and chip them for you. So there's information about it posted on signs at the entrances to El Granada. And I think this is a really good service that people will really be happy to have.
It is only for certain streets though.
Yes. Oh, yes. So
not
how can people, do you have a link so that people can get more information, Delia?
I don't, but I can try and maybe Claudia.
Barbara, I put a announcement out on to our full email list.
Great.
Dates and the attachment that Cleo sent.
Okay, do you have the specific dates?
27th and 28th.
Okay, and I guess only selected streets, so check the link to find out if it covers.
Sorry, I just had the poster up. It's 26th, 27th of October.
Okay.
26th and 27th.
Yeah.
Okay, there goes my memory.
And I think they're going to move it around. I think it's going to be repeated, so it's a real benefit to people. So, all right, moving on to item 1, which is consideration of revised Burnham Park Plan. I'm going to ask Tom Conroy from K&K to talk in just a minute. At our last meeting, we made, in response to more public comment, we made additional changes to what we wanted to see in the Burnham Park Plan. I just did want to say before we launch into that we want to get all the uses that our community wants permitted. We've done 2 years of outreach and listening to people. Our goal is to now have the plan finalized, and that's going to take a while to get it ready to submit to the county, which will include a coastal permit and environmental review and all of that. That doesn't mean that all of these items will be implemented, certainly not immediately. And I think the community can rest assured that just as we have worked really hard to get community input in how we created this plan and the things that are included in it, when the time comes to implement it, it will, for financial reasons, if nothing else, will be phased to some extent, and we will be able to assess the impacts that creating this park will have on our community and look at traffic and so forth. There will be traffic analysis also as part of the environmental review. So tonight, it's very exciting. We're looking at a plan that reflects really the items that were recommended by our community that they wanted to see in this park, and a balancing of various needs and issues. And hopefully we tonight will be pleased with these last revisions, which David Seaton and I, as the subcommittee, reviewed and recommended. And we will be able to direct K&K to prepare to be submitted to the county. Before Tom enters into this, I think we'll take public comment after Tom's presentation about the changes and the current design, unless someone feels that they need to say something first. Okay, so I'm going to ask Tom Conroy to take the meeting and explain to us the changes that you made in response to the board's direction at our last meeting.
Great. Thank you for the introduction and background, Barbara. And just to follow up on that, this is the end of a long road, but this is just really the first part of the journey. I've lost count of the number of meetings we've had and the overall number of comments. But I think with the really active work that the district has done throughout this summer and into the fall, aggressively getting public comment on our preliminary landscape plan that we presented last June, we've really arrived at something that incorporates just about everything and does it in a manner that's sensitive and really fits the location and fits the requests of the community. So with that, I'm going to jump over and share a short presentation. You've seen by now several presentations coming out of our office for the plan. This one is much shorter, and we're just going to focus on things that have changed since our last meeting, well, since the preliminary plan was presented in June. You'll note that up at the top, up at the bottom, we've moved away from the preliminary plan and are now presenting this as the master plan that has really incorporated all of the feedback that we've received over the last couple of years. This is the graphic plan here that was included with a lot more text in the staff report. I don't know if it was on the website. If it wasn't, I'm sure it will be. I just want to back up just a little bit to show you. This is the preliminary landscape plan from back in June, and the area in red here is the main focus of some of the changes that we've worked on this summer. The board comments from the last meeting in 27th of September, I think. There were 5 or 6 items, and I'm going to hit them real quickly here so I can show you how we've addressed them. The first had to do with the parking. There was a request that we increase parking as appropriate, and the 4 to 6 parking spot range was suggested. Second main comment was to kind of reduce some of the specificity surrounding the skate park area. And in doing so, that allows us a little bit more flexibility when it comes to presenting the plan to the county for permitting. They're not going to count the skate jumps or the rails or really care if it's a bowl versus a skate and scoot track or anything. So we wanted to give ourselves some flexibility as we go through the process of schematically developing the project, as well as implementing the project in the years to come. Another comment that the board asked us to address was to reduce some of the perceived congestion in these active areas, and adjust the pathways, the crossing pathways here, to avoid potential conflicts, as well as potentially increase the active play lawn and reducing the adjacent landforms as appropriate. And finally, defining an area for a potential dog park. And so what we did was we worked on some alternatives, and with another round of feedback through the park subcommittee, we developed the master plan that's included in the board packet and is here on the screen. And I'm just going to go quickly, zoom in again quickly on some of those areas that we changed and talk about everything that went into the new locations for some of these items. Here we can see the park back in context. The master plan updates. The first was with the parking lot. We increased the number of stalls within the parking lot from 32 to 36. And that also allowed us to add an additional street parking stall in the area directly adjacent to this parking lot. There is still opportunity for a little bit more parking either in the lot or on the street. And we can continue to refine that as we go through the schematic design process. The parking lot was increased in size in both directions, a little bit to the north, but mostly to the south. We didn't want to push the parking lot entirely to the south because we're maintaining the one way in, one way out drive aisles through the parking lot. And we didn't really want to have an exit to the parking lot get too close to that intersection of Avenue Portola and Obispo Road. The skate area moved a little bit, and one of the consequences of enlarging the parking lot is that things started to get a little pinched on the north side. And so we thought that moving the skate area just to the opposite corner of the parking lot, it's about 100 or so, maybe 75-foot move from where it was. But this allows us to have more of a dedicated skate area. And what we're showing here in the plan is the existing ramp being relocated and a non-specific multi-use skate feature that, as I said before, allows for future design flexibility. And we want to surround this area with good planted landscape buffers. One thing we see a lot in skate parks, and that's really their very nature, is that they are large paved areas, and we'd like to avoid a lot of excessive paving. And so we're by cushioning some of this hardscape with planting areas, it shouldn't be like a big expanse of paving that extends directly from the parking lot all the way across the site. The active play area, the big thing that we did here was to remove those crossing pathways. And it was, this was the most challenging part of this last round of revisions that we did. I hope you can see they're pretty small on the plan, but we've identified the locations of the wet weather management system, both the one that's in now and the one in that I believe will be going in the future. And there are 4 rows of 5 36-inch diameter manholes that cross the site. And in active play areas, especially under play structures, we really don't want to have kids playing on and around manhole covers. So tucking some of these features in and around proved to be pretty challenging, but I think in the end we came up with an arrangement of spaces here that's suitable and matches the sizes that we went through on the previous concept, but also addresses some of the board's concerns about the arrangement of the picnic area versus the lawn versus the play structure area. One big change is that the restroom moved away from Obispo Road a little bit. This was partially a consequence of the parking lot expanding to the north, but we found that it also allowed us to get a better planting buffer around the structure. That was one of the recommendations from our meeting, 6 or 7 months ago now with the county, that any structure on here that we place on the site, we should aim to screen it as best we can with planting. The picnic area has been moved to be adjacent to this plaza that's developed between the parking lot and the active areas of the park. And like in the preliminary landscape plan, the picnic area is really kind of the hub of the activity, with the play structures, both the small play structure for the smaller kids and play structure for the bigger kids, kind of radiating off of that. It provides a little bit of a buffer too for kids in those play structures from running off onto the pathways or into the parking lot. And the leading off of those play structures is an expanded lawn area that provides a bit more room for unstructured yet still active play. What we're showing here is just shy of 10,000 feet or so. We were at about 5,500 feet on the preliminary landscape plan. We also located the basketball court on the opposite side of the lawn. Moving it so to its own separate area avoids potential conflicts with basketballs bouncing away, kids running from play structure to picnic area and back and forth. And it's only about 50 feet away from the play areas. And there is access on both sides to the path system. So it's still easy to get to. And again, by stretching this area out just a little bit, on the left side of the highlighted area here, you can see that we've really reduced some of the berming, the land forming, while increasing the planting buffers that surround these active areas. Finally, the potential for dog parks, we thought still a fairly active use, and so we located them here on the other side of the planted berms as the active areas of the park transition into the more passive areas of the park on the north end. There's potential here for a small dog play area. This area on the east side of the pathway there is about 1,800 square feet. The area on the west side of the pathway, which would accommodate larger dogs, is 4,600 square feet at most in the area shown. As we talked about at our last meeting, surfacing options vary. They could include bark mulch, natural lawn, or even artificial turf. There are pros and cons to all of those. The specific direction on the finishes and the materials are a decision that we can defer for a future time. That is really the sum of the major changes. I'm happy to respond to any questions that the board has. Would like to direct our way.
Let me ask the board for comments, and then maybe we'll take some comments from the public. Are there board members who would like to ask questions or speak to this? I'm not seeing, let me see, how do I see hands? I don't see everybody.
Fine.
Does anyone on the board want to speak to this? I'm not seeing anyone raising a hand. I'll just say that I think K&K has done a really good job of taking the board direction and changing the plan, adding, we had some number of people who wanted the skate ramp moved away. So this change helps with that. And we have a larger lawn. So I think all in all, this is a good change. And I want to emphasize again that when we finally get through the planning process and have this approved, we will spend a lot of time talking about phasing and how we will implement this and what we will implement first. All right, no one from the board wants to speak?
No.
And yeah, raise hand.
Chris Johnson has his hand raised, Barbara.
All right, well then let us take questions from the public. Chris.
Thank you, Barbara. I didn't mean to jump in there. I just was getting in line. I just want to say that I really like the plans. I support these plans. I can't wait to see them built out. And I really appreciate the amount of effort GCSD has put into the public outreach. I've seen at least a couple, 3 different versions of plans and been to many meetings where they've been discussed. And I think the key to my real satisfaction with that is that the changes that came back from one version to the next were logical, and I felt like input had been processed and a real effort was made to incorporate that feedback in there into a revised plan. And so it didn't feel like, as in some other projects, it was just starting all over again every time. So really appreciate the outreach. And I really appreciate the Parks Authority of GCSD. In my mind, this is what it's all about. And I have total confidence in Barbara and the rest of the GCSD board to carry this through. And I'm really excited about it. Thank you. And I definitely like the plans.
Thank you, Chris. That's really nice. I did want to just jump in with one more thing, which is that as we go forward, there's a number of sort of blank slates on this, and we are going to be looking for community groups to get engaged and involved to help us plan the playground. There's such a range of things that we could put on the playground. We know that people have asked for swings, but that's something that's going to happen later. We'll want community participation on the skate feature and the skate ramp and how we integrate those. We're going to have a spot on the plan and so forth. So as we go forward, there will be interpretive signage. There will be what kind of exercise equipment do we have on here? And I just would like to also note that one change that Tom didn't highlight, which I think he's done an excellent job, was that our request that the perimeter trail be the major trail, and that we eliminate the crisscross in the middle, and that has been incorporated and works really well. Is there anyone else in the public who would like to speak to this?
Yeah, so Pat Tierney had his hand up next.
Okay, Pat, could you?
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Pat.
I would like to also remind everyone that your Parks Advisory Committee has been actively involved in reviewing this plan and provided lots and lots of feedback over the last year, and has assisted with surveys for it and all kinds of good things. But in terms of this particular version, I am supportive. I particularly like that you have added another skate ramp feature, the gray area next to the existing ramp. I'm happy to see the existing ramp there. And there's just been so much positive feedback about a skate feature, additional skate feature from the PAC and from the public, that I'm glad you've added it. I'm glad you took out the mystery X in the middle. I think that design, the new design's much better, much safer, and it leads right to the restrooms. I think that's excellent. Moving the basketball court away, I agree with that as well. Move that away from potential conflicts with little kids in the playground. That's a smart move. a safety move. So all in all, I think it's a good plan. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Pat. Couple
Okay,
things.
and
I
then-
want to emphasize that the basketball is just a half court, so there's not going to be basketball games on it, but there'll be a place with maybe 1 or 2 baskets, one for big kids and one for little kids, that people can bounce a ball and toss it up. So I think that'll be a good feature. And the other question that came in the chat that I wanted to address was the naming of the park. Yes, we will go out to the community, maybe sooner rather than later. I'm not sure exactly. We have to figure out how we're going to do it. But we really want to be thoughtful about how we look at the name. We're going to use this name because that's what it's been called for a long time. But we are open to discussion, and we will involve the community in the naming question. There's going to be a lot of continued questions that we're going to need the community's help to make a decision. And I think we've tried really hard so far to do that, and I think we will continue that practice. Anyone else who wants to speak?
Yes, Mark Hannon had his hand up.
Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hi, how you doing? I just had a couple of questions. First, this rendering doesn't really show fences. Is there a way to get an idea of where fences are going to be located? And if you park on the street on Obispo Road, it looks like you could just walk onto the park anywhere and kind of wherever you want to onto these. Is there any kind of definition that keeps people that are parking on that street from just walking into the park? And if it becomes a heavy traffic lane, shouldn't there be an extra turn lane built into this to allow people to get in and out of this parking lot? Because there'll be a lot of traffic going in, especially on weekends when people are using this and non-locals using this. Just tossing that out there. Thank you.
Tom, would you be able to answer that for us? Those questions?
Sure. Yes. The first question about the fencing, it is defined on the plan. I acknowledge that at this scale, it's really hard to see it. But
is there any way that we can see a plan that shows that specifically, and it shows the elevation versus just this general rendering? Just wondering. Thank you.
To answer your question, that question, yes. But getting back to talking broadly about the fencing, there will be a fence along the right-of-way line on the the entire west end of the park, separating the park from the Caltrans right-of-way. The goal, and this came out of our discussions with the county, the goal is really to prevent people from jaywalking across the street, and a fence, even a simple split rail fence like you see along the coastal trail elsewhere, is to help encourage people to use the pathway system and to go down to the crossing at Coronado Street.
Okay, so real quick question. A split trail fence is one of those kind of metal corrugated you can kind of step over if you sit on the verticals, the wood verticals?
Mark, we can't really get into a back and forth here. I think you
No, sorry. But I'm just trying to get a visual, because just thinking, the difference between a 6-8 foot fence versus a 3 foot berm, you calling it a, split rail. I can look it up on the internet. I'm sorry, but I'm just, something you can easily walk over versus something that is going to be there, keeping.
Yes, I mean it is not a barrier. It's not a wall, I guess I should say. It is a gentle reminder, an encouraging feature to prevent people from meandering across the right-of-way line. We don't want to wall this off. I mean, one of the great things about the park here, and all the roads that lead up to it, are the sight lines and are the visibility, and anything that would really affect that is not something we want to even contemplate. There will likely be other areas of low split rail fencing on the site around some of the riparian areas, especially on the south end, potentially in the areas around the relocated drainage ditches. This really is a safety measure. So we'll be able to work a lot of that out once we work with our civil engineer on some of these details. But for restoration areas, we want to keep people out of some of these native restoration areas. It's also likely that there will be some fencing around the play structure areas, mostly to direct kids. And I'm thinking specifically of the 2 to 5 year old play structure areas, which keeps kids a little bit more contained. Quickly, yes, you did note that if you park along Obispo Road, you can largely go walk right onto the site. There will be a curb and gutter system, but the curb and gutter will be designed to as a stormwater treatment measure, and we talked about those a little bit when we went over the master plan. But there won't be a way to just drive onto the park. And I'm sorry, I can't remember what the third question.
Turn lanes.
Turn lanes, yeah. And so part of this next process is to going through the schematic design and then going through the coastal development permit process, where we will have a traffic study performed. And the traffic analysis will look at the impacts that this proposed development has on traffic, what traffic can be expected, that the development can be expected to draw. And so that remains to be seen. It's possible, but that remains to be seen. And we can address that should it arise at the time that comes.
Okay.
And as part of CEQA, they will look at potential.
The new skate feature that is not the existing ramp, that's a concrete bowl structure of some kind?
Maybe.
We don't know what that.
Yeah,
we don't know what that is yet. We're going
to be determined.
Yes. And I wanted to say that in terms of view impacts, that's something that CEQA will analyze, and we will have to have some kind of studies to look at view impacts, because that's something critical for this park, that we preserve as much as possible the wonderful views across it. So that will be a whole part of the CEQA process. That's one of the pieces of CEQA that we'll have to do along with traffic and everything else.
Yeah, because as you
this
come
next
up
phase,
Obispo North, if you're coming up Obispo North and the parking lot's full and you're trying to make a left, that blocks Avenue Portola, and it just creates a traffic jam from people that are on Cabrillo Highway on State Right 1 that are trying to get into the park because they see it. That's all I want to make sure people realize is it's going to jam the local roads, and already people are talking about how the traffic is already hard to deal with on weekends. That's all I want to make sure people understand. The more parking spaces you give people to pull in, and yes, locals should have them, but at some point, it's going to create a traffic jam, just like the people who go out to use the Maverick Beach parking lot, and there's nothing left. They have to try to find a way to turn around and come back out. Thank you.
We don't have a lot of backup to the dirt parking lot, actually. So we will have a traffic study, and there will be an opportunity for further comments and analysis on the traffic study. So it's something we take very seriously.
Is there a fence around the bocce court?
No.
Okay.
Nancy's got her hand up.
Nancy.
Just quickly, Barbara, you said something about you weren't sure how much input we had, so I just did numbers.
Great.
We had more than 500 on the survey, but 160 between our first, our 2018 event and this past summer, 160 written comments from community members, and there were 50 to 60 people at our workshop. So it puts us over 700 points of input. And just kind of reflecting on all of that, I think there's a little bit of something for everybody. There's not anything that was particularly missed. Not everybody will be pleased with everything, but I think you guys covered it. I just one quick question that came up on the chat for Tom. The basketball, I think, is going to be a permeable a hard surface, like parts of the parking lot? Was that right?
I suppose it could be. I don't remember us having a lot of discussion on that. I suppose it could be. Most of the hardscape parking lots and pathways we anticipate being largely permeable. It may be a challenge to play basketball on a pervious surface, but it's something we can continue to refine.
I wasn't sure how hard those pervious concrete surfaces are.
Not hard enough to play basketball on.
Okay.
I can tell you that.
And it's a very small area.
Yeah,
Anything else?
Lenny had her hand up. Yeah.
Lenny, please.
Hi, everybody. Lenny L. Granada. The parking spaces, just for the record, I know we're going to do a traffic study, but we're on the north end there, where Avenue Alhambra and Obispo come together, where that stop sign is, that area is continuously a point where there's near accidents there. Not just because my home is right there on the edge, but I'm telling you that is really a dangerous area right there for cars. And I hear at least 4 times a day, I hear near crashes there where that stop sign is. And so I can imagine on Obispo alongside there where the parking is, the parallel parking, that's going to cause even more congestion. I'm just saying, and it's just not going to work. Right now, it doesn't work the way it is. But thank you. Just for the record, I wanted to say that no parking should be anywhere near there right now.
Thank you, Lenny.
Right.
All right, that's all I've got, Barbara.
Okay.
All right. Matthew.
Matthew. So I was going to go to the board now. Does the board want to talk? And let's start with Matthew.
Speaking of surfaces, the area between the skate ramp and the skate feature, which looks like the same surface as the playgrounds, what is that? What would that surface be?
It'll have to be concrete of some sort. We didn't want to put a lot of specifics into that. It could be that entire area takes some other shape. We just wanted to make sure that we were representing that we had, 2 distinct elements there and some way to get between them. I think it's most likely going to be concrete. I mean, folks are not going to want to pick up their boards and walk across some gravel and then drop down into a bowl or whatever else we have. So it's going to have to be a skatable surface.
And then that has to drain somewhere, correct?
Of course, yes.
And there's no provision from what I see in your drawing showing drainage. No, there's not. This is not a grading plan. This is a conceptual landscape master plan. I mean, there are drainage plans, planting plans, irrigation plans, utilities plans. All of these things are still to come. There's no reason to do a drainage plan at this stage because these areas are not entirely defined yet. Okay, but if somebody spills something in that skate park, it rains on it, it drains into the ocean, and that's okay. That's what you're saying at this point.
No, that is not what he's saying.
Okay, but I'm just saying, concrete in the future, concrete as much as asphalt has to be drained and has to go somewhere, and we're so close to the coast. Oil drippage on a street goes down the drain and into the ocean. I have stickers at the end of my block that remind me about that. I'm just making sure we're thinking about that as we say, oh, it's going to be concrete.
Tom?
I mean, yes. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's building things close to the coast comes with a lot of regulations. and we're not going to be able to build anything unless our project meets the regulations, not just county building regulations, but meets Coastal Commission requirements, meets potentially California Department of Fish and Wildlife, U.S. Fish and Game, Army Corps of Engineers. There's a lot of agencies that will be reviewing these drawings, and I am quite certain that if there is anything shown on these drawings that suggests that we are allowing oil to drain directly into the ocean, it will not go very far.
Plus, we're not going to put anything on the plans that would show that. So, all right,
Absolutely.
I think maybe we can take the plan off now and go back to seeing the group. There we go.
I'd like to say something.
Okay, who is that?
Fran.
Fran, go ahead.
Well, I need the plan back.
Oh, okay, can we put the plan back for Fran? I'm sorry.
Yes. It should be up.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, Fran Pollard, El Granada, and thank you for making some changes. It's better, but I'm concerned about the basketball right next to the highway now. You know, we suggested it where there's already cement. So I think so you're going to have a high fence there, right? Or what?
There's the whole right of way. There's how wide is the right of way? So
Well, they're probably going to.
I think it's 80 or 90 feet.
it's 90 feet in the right of way.
Well, they're probably going to do something with it. And that's right along where the bicyclers are going to be. So there's got to be some, I don't think that's the best location for the basketball, not next to the highway. I see the restroom now in the middle. That's good. I'm not sure I like all the picnic area right next to the restroom, and I'm wondering why the open space parts are in the, you know, I guess, is that still the village green at the south end?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there have been no changes to the south end.
Okay,
That's
so so that's open space and parkland, and then there's this other space over next to the active area. And then at the north end, where it is all open, it's got so many plants and things that there isn't. I'm just curious why it's like that, why the open spaces are in these smaller areas, and then the big wide space at the north end is full of plants and crosswalks and all kinds of things. And the bocce ball, I don't think that should be there. It should be more towards the active area, because a lot of guys would be playing in there. And then that takes up all that picnic area in there. So I'm wondering if you could make those mounds in the middle a little, at least take out a mound or make it much smaller so that there's some more open space in that north end. I think that would be better. And the bocce ball go closer to where there's already activity.
Well, the mounds are about 4 feet high, I think.
Pardon me?
Right? The mounds are about 4 feet high. And
Yeah, but look at how big and wide, and it takes up so much space, all those plants and those mounds. I think there should be more open space, and a lot of it. I keep hearing there's a lot of animals that come in there, and that's probably, I don't know if that's going to change all that.
Well, the animals will like the plants.
Maybe.
It's native. It's going to be native
They'll be
habitat.
native plants.
Yeah.
Yeah. But still, I would like to see some of that a little bit smaller, so there's more space for playing and running it around and just activities, free activities.
Thank you.
You think you could do that, Tom?
I know we've talked about this before. I'm not. At this point.
Let me ask the board, because I think the idea is that tonight we're going to approve this for K&K to make a more detailed plan that's suitable, taking into account the environmental assessment that we should be getting any day that we've commissioned for the whole site, so we understand any environmental constraints. And the question tonight is, are we ready to send this to K&K to convert to a plan that we are ready to submit to the county?
Well, first I'd like an answer. Can any of that be made a little bit smaller, the plant and the mound area in the middle?
Yeah, what I wanted to say is it's not, we have not done any work at this point on defining what one set of plants are, what one area, what plants go in what area versus what plants go in another area. On the master plan itself, we've indicated this as grasses and other native plantings. And so what that is intended to suggest is that there are large, wide open spaces filled with grasses and potentially pockets of more detailed masses of native plantings. The differentiation you see in the colors, the dark green versus the lighter green, is really just a graphic means of conveying that there is going to be that there are going to be differences, that this entire northern area is not going to be one monoculture, one flat expanse of the same thing. This next stage, as we go into schematic design, we will be, I think the schematic design phase is going to address a lot, or is going to continue to address a lot of the public comments that are still happening. Because through the schematic design phase, we're going to start zooming in on the more human scale elements here. So we will be cutting sections through the entire pathway, or through the entire park, sections through the pathways, to begin to really communicate what it's going to feel like on the ground level. And in doing that, and once we start working on working with our civil engineer on the overall site grading, there's going to be a lot more specifics still to come on what these berms, what these landforms are going to feel like, what they're going to look like, what character they're going to bring to the park, and what the character of the spaces between the landforms is really going to be. What it's going to feel like to be in those picnic areas versus on the bocce court. What it's going to feel like to stand at the corner of Avenue Alhambra and Obispo Road and look out across the park, across Highway 1, out at the ocean. We're going to bring all of those elements in to this next schematic design phase. What's really important right now, what this whole design phase has been about, is defining the use areas, the intensity of uses, the types of uses, and the overall site character that the board and the community want for the future of this park. And I think, I'd like to think that we're almost there. And as we get through the next phase, we're not going to be relying on just one plan that gets updated, like we've been doing really for the last few years. We're going to zoom in on some of these things. It's not just going to be looking down, it's going to be looking out and looking around. And I really hope that the clarity that process brings will soothe a lot of the concerns that I know some folks still continue to have.
Right. So if there is no one who has, if there's not anyone who hasn't already spoken, or if someone has a new issue to raise, I want to get to board deliberation. Lenny, do you want to?
Yes, just briefly. I have a question about the skate ramp. Are you planning on moving the present skate ramp to this new location? And is it going to be the same size, or does that whole area there have the potential to become a gigantic skate, not gigantic, but pretty large skate area? I'm just curious about that.
I think the plan is to maintain the current ramp.
Yeah, but that area can continue to be developed as the community and the board want.
Right.
Quick question.
As I was saying, there will be many aspects of this that we will continue to seek out community involvement.
Just a quick different question. Why is there 2 bathrooms versus 1 bathroom? There's one over by preschool area that can be walked to off of Obispo Road area in Avenue Alhambra. Why have 2 bathrooms?
It's a very big site. And if you're in a small group picnicking on the northern end, or especially with little kids, walking 1,000 feet to the central bathroom may not be the most convenient option.
And I think the notion is we will have some staff who will close things up at night when the time comes.
And I would say in some respects, some of these all kind of tie back to what we said about the phases. That's something where we could do phase 1 is just 1 bathroom, right? And the last phase, years later, we might add that second bathroom. I think
exactly.
Even in the north end, phase 1 might all be open space to address Fran's concern. There's going to be nothing different. It's going to be all 1 plan, but then there are future plans as we get more input. We're going to refine that, just like the skate park as well, where I kind of was put at ease. We said, hey, we're going to let the people in the community that have been part of the last skate park drive the process. And when we get there, we'll let them kind of be a part of that and further refine that. And I think the key kind of where I look at this, the parking and some of the general layouts, and then the specifics, we're going to, come back and refine all that. And I think that put me at ease. And I think that there's still a long ways to go. I think it's just kind of the general plan, parking, some of these other things, and then the specifics, we still have time to refine it.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot more opportunities for public involvement and public comment. Okay, I'd like to close the
Barbara?
comments from the public and then move to the board members. Matthew?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment on the loose basketball issue because this has been brought up several times. First, that basketball court is not next to the highway. I pulled out my ruler and based on the scale on the end of the drawing below the large word park, it's about 110 feet from the fence to that line above where it says Cabrillo Highway. And the highway's on a raised berm there. It's about 8 or 10 feet higher elevation than the park. An average person couldn't throw a basketball to that highway if they wanted to. I don't think that's even going to need, the basketball area is going to even need a fence because that's a long ways from the highway. It's
not a court, it's a half court. So it's a, hang out and throw the ball at the hoop kind of thing. Not where you play games. So
loose balls, also, a loose ball would have to get through the split rail fence. I believe the circumference or width of a basketball is 12 inches. So if the rails are 11.5 inches apart, the ball can't even go through. So I think that's a non-issue.
All right, I want to close the public input on this, and I want
Barbara, there was one more hand up that I know. So Rick Parker.
Yeah, Rick. Okay, hi, Rick.
Howdy.
Go for it.
I want to say this has been a great process, and I thank everyone that's been involved in it. I really like how things are being distributed throughout the park better in this revision. It's a much spaced out plan. It's not imbalanced from left to right. I disagree with the quiet to active zone. I think people should be distributed throughout this park evenly. But I think we've done a good job getting everybody's wants and not getting everybody's wants. So the bocce court and the basketball half court. And I have a question. Why are we opposed to calling it a game? Why can we not call it a court? I don't understand the wording game there of why we can't have basketball games. Why are we afraid of that? Anyway, you don't have to answer that question. It doesn't really matter. All right. Good job, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else before we move to board discussion? Okay. Let me ask all of the board members to sort of weigh in, and then maybe we could get a motion. If someone would be interested, David, you might want to make the motion since you were on the subcommittee. Who on the board would like to tell us their opinion first? Come on, guys.
I mean, I can go first. And Rick, just so you know, I'd be happy to play a game one-on-one with you if we have.
Well, yeah, that kind of game, yes. It's not two teams, you know, doing a whole
hours, yeah.
So, I mean, from my perspective, I just want to echo what you said. I think at the start of the discussion, Barbara, I think the team at K&K has been and continues to do a very good job of kind of thoughtfully incorporating the direction they've received. And I mean, I was happy with the plan as we saw it at the end of September. I appreciate the tweaks that were made to address the comments that were raised over the past month or so. And you know, I continue to be very happy with this, recognizing that we are at the end of one process and just the start of another, and there will be more opportunity for feedback and inevitable changes as we discuss things with the various agencies who will need to approve this project. So I'm all in favor of moving this forward.
Thank you. Jim, did you want to weigh in?
No, I think there's very impressive amount of work here. I like the level of detail, so I'm very supportive of the plan as it is right now.
Great, thank you. Matthew? You're muted, Matthew.
As a general comment, I'd like to say that I would prefer as little concrete, asphalt, or any other impermeable surface as possible. I understand, like, it may not be possible for a small basketball court to be on anything but, you know, a really hard surface. But other than that, I would like to minimize that if possible. But in general, I think this is an improvement, and I really like it. And I think we should go forward with this plan as the basis of where we're headed.
Thank you. David?
Yeah, I'll second that. I think I'm at ease that I feel like the process has been good. We've taken feedback at each stage and refined it in the direction of that feedback. So it gives me confidence that as we progress, that if we follow that same plan, everyone's going to kind of get what they want, the way they want it. And so I think I would agree with Fran, any more open space we could get, even maybe those last two berms, trying to squeeze out a little bit more. I like the idea of that because it gives us that flexibility. But then again, as long as I think we are on the same page that we're going to be taking feedback at every step of the way, I think that there's still opportunity. So I'm good with where things are at.
Would you like to make the motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve this as shown and submit it to the county.
For K&K to, yes, prepare it for submitting to the county. Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Great.
Barbara?
Yes?
Barbara, I just want to clarify, we're not approving a project tonight. This is just the board giving permission for staff to move forward with this project and applying to the county.
Yes. We are approving this as the plan to be submitted to the county, for K&K to prepare to be submitted to the county. Yes?
As drawn.
How soon are you going to submit it to the county?
It will take some time, but let's finish the business here. So we have a motion in a second.
This is going to be submitted as drawn, and any of the comments today, no matter me or who else, it doesn't matter. This is going in.
I just want to know when it's going to go.
Yeah.
Tom, it will take some time for K&K to prepare to do additional work on this. Will we bring it back one more time before it actually goes to the county, Tom, or how would you envision that happening?
So what we're hoping to receive tonight is board approval of the design direction of this master plan. What that will do is allow us to start putting together the work and the team required to develop a full coastal development permit submittal to the county. That will it will certainly come back to the board, and will certainly be there will certainly be opportunity for additional public comment. And in fact, I really think it's critical moving forward. So it will be. Excuse me, please. It will be a much more robust submittal. As I said earlier, it's not just a plan that needs to go in, but it's a whole series of plans. It's a series of sections. It's a series of elevations and a three-dimensional model shot. Right. In addition to that work, there will be civil plans that get submitted to the county. That submittal to the county, once we open up that application, or once we submit and start that application, that opens up the CEQA process. So from that point, the California Environmental Quality Act the project will start being evaluated against CEQA. And at that point, we will have traffic studies. We've already got the biologists, but everything from geotechnical to cultural to visual resources. There's a checklist of about 19, I think, different items. All of those are part of the coastal development permit process. So what we're looking to do, again, is to get approval of the design direction of this master plan, which will allow us to put together the package that gets submitted to the county to open up the coastal development permit process.
And your design will show 36 stalls, correct?
Okay, Mark.
No, just asking because that's the difference. I saw there was going to be a discussion between 32 and 36 stalls. This drawing saws 36 stalls. Just wondering if that's what's going to be submitted. That's all.
Yes.
If the board approves this plan, then that is the direction we will head. Yes.
Bill, was David's motion adequate, or would you want to suggest some rewording of the motion?
Well, I like what Tom said in that, none of your approvals, all you're doing is giving direction on the design process and moving this forward. And the only reason I made my comment was because, as Tom pointed out, this has to go through CEQA review, in which the public will have an opportunity to comment on the environmental document and the review of the plan. So I just want to make it clear for the record that the board is not approving this project tonight. It's just simply giving authority for Tom and the group to move forward with the design direction, as he put it, which will then lead to putting together the CDP package as well as starting CEQA review.
So the motion might be to approve the design direction as shown tonight and to direct K&K to prepare a package for submittal to the county.
I like that motion. That's a good.
David, are you okay with that?
I'll second that motion.
No, you're making that motion.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make the motion that Barbara restated.
And then who?
So David, you'll agree to that amended motion, and Matthew, as a seconder, will you agree to that amended motion?
Yes.
Okay.
So let's have a roll call vote, please.
Holy cow. Wow.
Okay, Director Dye?
Yes.
Director Clark?
Aye.
Director Blanchard?
Aye.
Director Seaton?
Aye.
Director Sukamel?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0 on motion of Director Seaton, seconded by Director Clark.
And let me just say that many of the comments tonight are consistent with the comments that we've received earlier, and we've really tried our best to incorporate the diverse, many hundreds of requests that we have gotten through these years. And I again want to commend Nancy Marsh for all her hard work at, bringing together and collating the opinions that we received. And then I do want to do one big thank you to K&K. And I think Tom and Steve have done a great job for us. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the full package that they're going to put together. I really feel as if they've taken a lot of ideas that we had in community input and helped us come up with something that will work for this community. So.
Barbara.
Great. Thank you, Barbara.
Okay.
One last question, Barbara, just to Tom again. Does he think that the plan he's going to try and get together would be done before the end of the year or starting next year, or when?
I can assure you that the plans will not be ready for submittal by the end of the year.
Okay.
I think this next step is, I think we're probably looking at sometime in the spring submitting to the county.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I think we will use our wonderful Parks Advisory Committee to help us provide input if there are issues that come up that are, just we would like to just get a little more input. That's one thing that the Parks Committee can do for us if we have a question. We think, we will see how it goes, but I would like to appreciate their value as a resource for us as we move forward.
Barbara?
Yes.
I would like to ask probably Bill and Tom, when should we start looking for a CEQA consultant?
I don't think, I think we can start doing that at any time. It may be ideal for us to get a little bit of work going so that they have a real firm plan to start going by. But I don't think that, issuing an RFP towards the end of this year would be out of the question.
Thank you.
I agree with that. I think an RFP is probably the next step and probably should be done sooner rather than later.
Anything further on this topic? Thank you, everyone. And all these people here, every single person who's here has contributed to the process of developing it. So thank you all for your caring so much about it. And I hope that this will actually someday become a reality and we'll all be really proud of it. So, all right, moving on. Consideration of bike pump track in Quarry Park.
Okay, this should be relatively quick. I had a conference call with Nick Calderon, who's the head of parks for San Mateo County. And we basically talked about the broad outlines of what an agreement would look like for a bike pump track in Quarry Park. And it was a good, frank conversation. He had kind of heard some noise, I think, that maybe support was wavering from the community or from the board. And I said, no, the board is looking forward to getting this pump track constructed. And we're also looking to fund it. Obviously, it's not a blank check, and he understood that completely. And we said, if the board's going to be paying for this, they also want some input into the design of it, the location of it, things like that. And, he agreed that sounded all reasonable and we could work with that. So he's actually looking, I forget who he has a meeting with, but he had talked about making a presentation or just have a discussion with your board at our next meeting, or possibly even a special meeting if we need to keep this moving along in the next few weeks. So it was a good conversation. He understands our position, understands, the reasonableness of it, and looking forward to working with us.
I also attended a Zoom meeting about the design with a lot of the people who've been working on the project with the county after your meeting. And
okay, that's what it was, yeah.
They have reduced the footprint of it to leave more meadow area. And then I mentioned the fact that we will, when we approve this funding, it will be at a public meeting and people will have a chance to comment. And so we will listen to the community on that. My question is whether we can, or it would be appropriate to condition our funding on an agreement that there would not be large scale events on this site. Because I think that really is a concern. This is meant to be a neighborhood feature facility, something that people in the community use. Of course, it would be open to everyone. Of course, people could have small groups there, but we really, I think it's important to say that we don't want this to be something that has big events on the site. And I thought I'd throw that out as an idea and get some comment from the board and from the community. Let me first see if anyone on the board wants to speak to that, or Chuck or Bill, and then we'll go to public comment.
Well, I guess the first part of that is a policy question for the board, so I'm not sure I could speak to it. The second is probably a legal question of, could we condition the park so no events could be held at it, Bill?
No large events.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'd have to think about how we do that. If we had complete site control, that's different.
And I think it comes down to the specifics. I think the private events where seemed to be some pushback, like weddings and things like that, versus public community events. I think the movie nights and things that they're already doing, I think obviously they're not going to want us to be, overstep on any of those types of things. So I think that maybe getting into defining it more, I think, obviously the specifics of it, but yeah.
I wasn't thinking for the park in general. I was thinking just for the pump track.
Okay, I wanted to clarify that. Yeah. So this is just
to Chuck's point, I was going to say, I like the idea of a special meeting. I feel like there's so many different things that we could, in terms of even agendizing a couple different items specific to this park, the financial aspects, the construction of it, still design. I think that if they offer that, I would like to, take that up to the board, that we should schedule that as far as one night where we get everyone kind of focused just on this one thing. And, they have the whole night kind of to them. And once the meeting's over, they're still there, in terms of, rather than having to be rushed off so we can get through the rest of our meeting. I think that would be a good next step if everyone's open to that.
And so when I spoke with Nicholas, he had the meeting, which I guess was that design meeting Barbara mentioned, and he and I are going to touch base next week. So after I told him I had our meeting tonight, obviously. So, I'll touch base next week and I'll see what he's learned, and we'll figure out steps from there. And Barbara, I think Rick Barker had his hand up. Rick, did you want to talk?
Yes.
Sure. There's been a meeting since then with the landscape architects and the skate park designers and coastside mountain bikers, all lending input, narrowed it down to 3 different specific designs that they're going to be putting out shortly in a community format for feedback from the county. That date is tentatively set, but I don't think it's released to the public yet. It'll be within, I think, a month or less. And they'll have official designs for the community to give feedback to and input of for the different park pump track features. That's kind of where we sit with all of the design and the bike style input and things of that nature. To address the Barbara's concern of large groups and things of that nature, I can tell you that pump tracks in general do not have any sort of leagues or races or anything organized. There are never any sort of teams. If there was an event, it would be someone's birthday party. There's no sort of official association of pump track riding.
Does somebody have a hammer going or something?
No, I've been muting people left and right, so.
There we go. Thank you.
It might have been my stomach growling. Sorry. Yeah, there is no, it's not like a softball league where you'd get a bunch of big softball teams or anything like that.
Okay.
So there is no official organized, like a BMX race or anything like that. There is no series of racing. There is no racing at all in the pump track world. There may be small like coaching events or teaching events, you know, but these are like 10, 15 people. And I think you'd have a hard time on the other side of it, legally telling county what we can do in their park.
Right. I know. I was just asking the question because I do feel that that park is a community park, but it's really located in a neighborhood and it has impacts on that neighborhood. And I know we're all aware of that, but
yeah, we are.
It's something I worry about.
I think we should be proud of it and we should be attracting outside visitors personally. I don't like our park mentality. I think we should be inviting people from other communities to come out and see the coast and its beauty. But definitely, I see your concerns there.
Any other board members want to weigh in on this? And then we'll take public. Matthew?
I'll just say that I'm more comfortable now that if the county truly understands that there is no blank check here and that we need to schedule this in a manner that as soon as they have a plan that they think they're going to go with, that we get to see it and consider it in a public meeting and to make sure that we're comfortable with it before we write said check.
Well said. Anyone else? Eric, do you want to say anything or?
No, I mean, I think I would just say that I agree with Rick's position on the restriction on use. I just don't, I mean, given the nature of what it is, I just don't see it being an attraction relative to something else. So I'd be surprised if we had people coming in to use it specifically.
Thank you. Jim, did you want to say anything or?
Jim, you're muted. Okay. All right, you want to have somebody else?
No, I'm fine, thanks, sorry. I'm fine now with the plan as is.
All right. So I guess, David, did you want to say anything more?
Yeah, no, I think, it's kind of same thing on the last issue. I feel like I'm comfortable with the process. I like the iterations and the feedback that they seem to be taking from people in our local community. So I feel like if that kind of stays on course, I feel like, it kind of keeps everything open that we're gonna get this right. And so I think if they kind of stay on that track that we're on right now, I think things are going in the right direction.
Okay, so it sounds like we don't really need a motion. We just need to say that it's a sense of the board that we're still supportive and would like to, and are willing to schedule a special meeting, but would like to see the plan and review it before we consider whether to write a big check.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll touch base with him next week as well.
But I want to make sure that, Fran, I know you want to talk. Fran? Sorry, did you want to finish, Chuck? Did I cut you off?
Yeah, well, I was going to say Chris Johnson has his hand up, but Fran's muted too.
Fran and then Chris.
Okay.
Chris is muted.
Fran, do you want to speak? Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, I felt a little left out of all of this. After all, it's my neighborhood and I'm inundated with now more and more kids and men are coming with bikes and not always riding their bikes in. They bring trucks and cars full of bikes, taking up a lot more space. We're just you're going to have to, I would like to be included. I think our neighborhood has never been invited to any of these meetings or planning. I've said this before that I'm not sure now, I guess if it's still that same location that they've been planning on lately. I'm worried about if we ever have great storms again, anything washing down on the neighborhood, because that's happened in the past when we've had big storms. Any kind of movement of the land up there, redesigning and big dirt mounds are going to cause that. And we haven't been consulted. I've asked to be included and we're not. So I guess, yeah, after it's all planned out, then we get to say something. I don't like that. And I've said, it isn't. It's no longer Quarry Park. When we developed Quarry Park, and I'm going to remind everybody else out there that it was our community, our group that developed Quarry Park, not the county. We managed it, and for 15 years, Jim Blanchard was our chair, and I was on it, and several of the community people. We worked our butts off, cleaning that up and turning it into a park. And I feel like it's been hijacked from us. And now the county's taking it over and they do what they want. And we have no say. And I feel like now where the pump track is going, that is going to be open to everybody. And the whole Bay Area. And once they know there's a pump track there, you can be sure there'll be a lot more people coming and a lot more crowding. We've got to increase parking, which they've refused to do. I mean, here the county has now, we started out with just well, originally it was 40 acres for Quarry Park. So we don't even want that much anymore. I'm be happy with those 4 acres where the tot lot is and the little park just to ourselves. So I think Granada should think about that being our park, community park, and the county. But the county has what, 800 acres now all around, and they haven't increased any parking anywhere. And that is absurd. If anybody builds a building here, they require so many parking spaces for the building. And here they've got 800 acres. They invite the whole world to come. And we're inundated with it. And our properties are abused, especially mine, all the time. And I'm fed up. And I don't think we should be paying a lot of money either for it because it's open to the whole Bay Area. Why should our little community and our tax dollars of El Granada be spent for the entire Bay Area? I think that's ridiculous.
Thank you, friend. I know you, and yeah.
Well, you already have somebody that has said that they want to invite people already.
Mark, you need to be called on at a public meeting.
I'm just saying.
Chris Johnson was the next person who was going to speak. So.
Thanks, Barbara. So I'm a member of the San Mateo County Parks Pump Track Subcommittee. There are other people on this call that are members of those committee, including Barbara. And I hear the concerns, and I've spoken with Fran about this before and other people. And I guess my comment is that I love this community too, and I love Quarry Park too, and I wouldn't want anything done there that I think would degrade our community or the neighborhood. And that's one reason why I lobbied to be on the pump track subcommittee. I want that pump track there, but I want it there as a point of pride in our community. And that's why I wanted to be on the committee. And I do feel that Parks Director Calderon is listening. And as I said earlier about the Burnham Park plans, I think that the people of El Granada should have great faith and trust in the GCSD in general, formerly the GSD, now GCSD, and over 40 years, 50 years has shown to be one of the best led and organized, in my opinion, organization on the coast side. It represents its ratepayers, and I think it really advocates for the community, and that's why I supported Measure G in 2012. And in my opinion, this pump track is exactly what Measure G was about. And again, I want the community to have pride in this, and I think that they will, and that's why I'm participating in this, and I devote myself to an outcome that is excellent for everybody, including, and I just want to mention that we did have discussion based on input that I received from community members like Fran, we did have discussion at the last meeting about multiple drainage solutions. So that is definitely going to be part of any plan. And then public outreach, the county can do nothing without that. They won't do, and neither will GCSD. So the last thing I want to say, thank you for the time. The last thing I want to say is at the meeting that Barbara referenced, the issue of organized events, with banners and teams and portable snack bars and stuff was discussed, and Director Calderon did not want that, and nobody there wanted that. Nobody there is thinking of that. This is a community installation that is open to the public, and I think that's the way I would like people to think of it. It's a community installation that is open to the public, as any public park is. And so the whole idea of organized events is really, there's nobody that wants that. Nobody that's building tracks, nobody that's involved in this subcommittee, nobody wants that. It won't happen. So thank you, GCSD. And last thing, GCSD, in addition to support, I understand that there's elements of the community that are not wanting this or are worried about it. But I think GCSD has to trust the process, since they have absolute representation on the committee that's looking at it right now, and provide leadership, try to address these concerns and help people see how this can be a wonderful thing. And that's hopefully what I will try, or I will try to do that hopefully when I have discussions with community members as well. This can be a great thing, and it will be. Thank you for all the time to talk. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris. I wonder if there's a way we can kind of, I'm going to ask Rick and Chris this, is if we can raise the parking issue a little more, because I agree, it really impacts the neighbors of this park right now, because I live really near Quarry Park, and you can see on the weekends there's a lot of people, but I guess that probably has to wait till the master plan process is complete.
Barbara, I think we definitely should at our next meeting raise that question and see if it can be part of this resolution. Let's see what can be done. If people are worried about not enough parking, let's take that issue up. Okay. I'm not saying let's build a humongous parking lot, but can we add a few more spots? Is there some other creative plan that could happen, like signage indicating people to stage their parking at the elementary school and then ride their bikes over, or something like that? I'm just saying, let's take that up.
Okay, I think that sounds good. Rick, did you want to speak to this?
Nancy's had her hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nancy.
Marsh.
Just three quick things. One, on events at the park, what we know from us looking into having events at the park is there is a permitting process. So there is a stop gate for any events that have any significant numbers of people to go through. So there is a limiter. And I just wanted to remind people that one of the first things the Parks Advisory Committee did way back at its beginning was look everywhere for where we might be able to put a pump track, because the active community, as Chris knows, his son was like 6 years younger when that started, to put one, and we just didn't have a place to put it. And so as I recall, the offer to fund it in Quarry Park was because through the Quarry Park master planning process and PAC's own reviews over about 3 years, that was really the only place to put it, but there was some significant demand for it in the community. And the last thing is just thinking about this special meeting. I think one of the things to be careful about is the county parks is doing a public input process, and that's their process on all of the things they're going to ask the public. And I think with a public meeting, a special meeting, we probably need to be very clear on the very specific topic, so that it doesn't cross over into becoming a parallel lane of public input that isn't connected into the county's public outreach process. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Rick, did you want to weigh in on this, or are you good? Rick? No?
No, the hand's up.
Okay.
Yeah, I can speak to reassuring that drainage will actually be greatly improved in that area, not just mitigated. The process, I mean, building a pump track drainage is very key. So, I mean, it's previously just a vacant horse pasture currently. It'll be drastically improved drainage and sediment and erosion control once it's completed. I can guarantee you that. Parking is definitely a consideration that we've considered, and that will definitely have to be part of the county's discussion going forward. I can tell you I'm in Quarry Park pretty much every day, and traffic has increased since COVID almost 400%. And it's not just bikes, but there are a lot more bikers as well. But yes, to Fran's concern, there are people parking on the surface streets in front of her house, and you know, I understand her frustration. Beach parking is parking in front of my house and leaving their trash in front of my house. So, I mean, I understand the parking on surface streets is annoying. But as a tourist community, which we are rapidly approaching and what we are going to be in the future, telling outsiders that they are not welcome, that it's a community, well, they come and they support our community. I make my money, and a lot of my family makes my money off of those people coming here. So I really have a problem with the attitude of just for us. I mean, we're going to strangle ourselves and just become a bedroom community.
We can't get into a whole philosophical argument about that tonight, Rick, but thank you. I appreciate it. That's a complicated discussion that a lot of people have strong feelings about. Well, I agree that with Nancy's point that, you know, chances are we are going to have a plan come to us that we can approve or not approve. But I do think we need to take that seriously and convey some of the sentiments that have been expressed to us here tonight and so forth to the process. And
yeah, and I would just add that
public input.
And I was just going to say that the only reason we're a part of this right now is because of the pump track. Otherwise, it's their property. They could do whatever they want with it. And we have absolutely no say outside of just being community members and showing up to their process. We got involved because we expressed interest in the pump track. And that kind of gives us a gateway to let the pump track be driven by our local community and some of these other factors that I think we could get our hands in, whether it's the parking issue, which is definitely going to be an issue. It's an issue now. It is going to be worse. We do need major signage encouraging the locals, everyone else, please don't park here unless it's a family or elderly people, whatever, almost to the point where, you know, that is going to be an issue, I think. But the bigger issue is it's their park. They can ultimately do what they want. And the pump track does kind of give us a gateway to be a part of this process. And that's what's got us in the door. And that's, so ultimately outside of that, we take that away. We don't really have much say. So I think that keeping that on the table, it allows us to, kind of have a say in some of these other, issues that are tangent to the pump track.
All right. Well, I think the board actually came to a consensus, and Chuck, you have that sense of the board from us. So unless there's something further, I think we need to move on. So thank you, everyone. This is, as I've said before, since I first got involved in all this, this has been the one thing people have been asking for over and over and over and over, and I'm pleased that we can make it. But I am very concerned about the impacts on the community in that area. So we will continue to work for that. Moving on to a report on parks and recreation activities. Claudia, you're muted. Claudia, you're muted.
There, now I'm unmuted. Okay, well, I've got three things that I wanted to share with the board tonight. One is that obviously because of the pandemic, classes have been at a minimal level at best. the ongoing embroidery classes, which we've got 2 of them going right now for children, will probably be the last classes scheduled for this calendar year, given the changing weather and the lack of an indoor facility for us. Now, I have had word that the El Granada School is going to reopen with a half and half program, half home learning, half on campus on January 23rd. And if that's the case, then possibly we can parallel along with that and start using the meeting room again for indoor classes with social distancing and mask, of course. So as we get closer to that, hopefully that will be something that we can do. The good news is that through the contacts of our new instructor, whose name is Anna Davidson, she's the embroidery class teacher, we have 5 young Latin children participating in the embroidery class. Anna was able to connect directly with current teachers at El Granada School and pass the word on to the parents regarding our classes. I had 0 signups for the beginning class. Through our online registration program. But Anna, having been a 3rd grade teacher at El Granada School for many years and had introduced cross-stitching to all of her kids every year, that she was able to talk with the other teachers who are still there and get the word out to that community. And, you know, I am to be, just as a side note, you know, this is the first time we've been able to connect with GCSD's Latin residents in our program offerings. And I am just thrilled that, you know, to have these mothers, young mothers, bringing their children to these classes and feeling to be a part of our community, that our community offerings. So, and that's all due to this program that Anna has started with me. The second thing is the invasive white snail infestation. It is still underway. We're still working on trying to eradicate them. But as Barbara has said, that until Caltrans comes together with some kind of a program to control the infestations that they have on their property, we're going to be getting the overflow. And so on a weekly basis, I'm still setting the traps and still hand picking snails, as Barbara does as well. So that's that area. Then the third thing is that in as much as we want to connect with the entire community and future offerings, I'm suggesting that GCSD alter its course fee structure to charge only minimal registration fees for its programs and to pay our instructors for their time directly. We did attempt this with the CPR AED classes that Michelle was teaching, but we charged no registration fee, which led to last-minute no-shows. A minimal registration fee would serve to alleviate most of that problem while serving to open more of the programs to the full community. So I am requesting that the board consider this proposal and add it to next month's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we'll refer that to the PAC. We'll talk about that. I want to add a couple more things, at least one more thing, which is, Matthew, do you want to give a report on our interviews or our meetings with the 2 potential architects for the fire station? And then maybe we could ask the board to allow us to go ahead and make a recommendation.
Sure. Barbara and I have met in the last 2 days with 2 architects, one relatively local from San Carlos and one very local from El Granada. And personally, I had positive feelings and reaction to both of them.
Me too.
They and the fire district people were very accommodating this time and were there on time and let us just wander around and do whatever we wanted. And both the architects are going to send us brief statements of what they think they saw, what they think the potential is, and what kind of ideas they might generate for the explanations we gave them about the district's needs for a community center and, office space as well as community space, et cetera. And those should come in early next week. And
the fire department is telling us that they may be out of there by November 20th. So it looks like
that's right.
That move is going to be happening sooner rather than later. So we do need to, at our next meeting, we are planning to be looking at some budgets and finance and so forth. So it would be good to have this preliminary report. So their emails are just going to talk about what they put in the preliminary report. So the idea is that we would hire these people for a less than one of these two, for a less than $10,000 report on, what could be done with the existing building, or, what are the things we should be thinking about and so forth. And so that we would have that background to help us make a decision when it comes time to look at perhaps making an offer in the building. So I think Matthew and I were both thought either one of them would be fine. And we were hoping that the board would be willing to, because of the time constraint, to let us select one or the other on the basis of the message they're going to give us about how they would approach this first project. So we're not committing to having them do the whole project, but it's likely that we'll want to continue to work with the person that we work with on this first project. But we'd like to go ahead and select one of them and put them to work. So.
Right, and as Barbara said, we do need to move on this. We were told both days that they expect to be moved into the new fire station about the 20th of November. That doesn't mean that, their basic equipment and the trucks, et cetera, but it doesn't mean that the old station 41 will actually go on sale that soon. Nevertheless, we need to be ready, and so we should go for that. So and so can we get the sense of the board that the subcommittee can make a recommendation to staff once we see their initial submittals to for who the district should go with?
Eric, what do you think?
I mean, I don't have any objection to moving forward.
Okay, great. David?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the details of it. It seems like it's just going to be a small phase. So depending on what the scope is, I think it should be fine.
Great. Jim, you okay with it?
No objection. I agree you should proceed.
Great. Chuck, do you need more than that, or can you,
That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a small enough job.
Okay, thanks. Anyone have anything further on Parks and Recreation? Thank you, Claudia. Some good things are happening. Anything else? Right, moving on to consideration of California Regional Water Quality Control Board, San Francisco Bay Region proposed basin plan amendment to establish a bacteria total maximum daily load and implementation plan for Pillar Point Harbor and Venice Beach.
This is too late in the meeting to deal with this, but there's heavy lifting here.
People are being dropping off like flies now.
And rightfully.
Well, it's not like it's exciting stuff. So
I would if I could.
Yeah. So basically, the Regional Water Quality Control Board is the board that regulates the sanitary sewer system, the SAM treatment plant, things like that. Surface water, groundwater, and every once in a while they come out with these new regulations. So back in June, they held a conference call with a lot of the stakeholders. John Rayner from Kennedy Jenks, our district engineer, represented GCSD, and they held a conference call on this proposed basin plan. and amendment. And what this basin plan does is it sets new total maximum daily limitations on certain constituents. And the problem they're addressing is the Pillar Point Harbor and the Venice Beach area. Now, Pillar Point Harbor has been identified for a long time. I think I put in my memo that the RCD did a report on the harbor and sources of pollution there probably 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. So this new basin plan has been handed down to us. It's somewhat onerous in the fact that it mentions that we will have to review and inspect all of our sewer mains within a half-mile of the coastline. So as you saw on that map I circulated before the meeting tonight, that's pretty much 75% of our sewer system is within a half-mile of the shoreline. Now, obviously, a leak in a pipe in the upper reaches of El Granada, I won't even say has little chance to reach the ocean. It has no chance to reach the ocean. It's 8 feet underground and whatnot. So we held a conference call a week and a half ago with Barbara Baginska from the regional board and Janet, who was her supervisor, I can't remember her last name, and basically went through the plan and expressed our concerns that, hey, you know, you're making us concentrate on 75% of our system. We look at this stuff all the time. It's what I do for a living, and I look at what are the pollution points, if you will, what can leak where that can get into a waterway. And we had probably a 45-minute discussion that really didn't go much of anywhere. They kind of stuck to their guns of what's in the report. It's going to stay in their report. I asked them where the half-mile, limitation comes from. They told me it's kind of standard after a lot of hand-wringing a little bit. They actually told me we were lucky because they've been more onerous in different places. And I said, I don't quite feel so lucky. And I get at the heart of this. I think we all want to protect the environment, but we also want to spend our ratepayer money intelligently. And I don't want to focus on pipes a half-mile from the beach when I should be focusing on things near streams and the beach and the lagoons and whatnot. So I think this is going to go through no matter what we do. And so what the district's going to have to do is prepare an enhanced sewer system management plan. So we've already got one in place. We're going to have to refocus the certain sections in that plan that will address their basin plan amendment. But this is a regional board. You can talk to them, but what they dictate is pretty much what we have to follow. So what I'm going to try and do is get it geared and get, if nothing else, a letter in writing that says, here's our concerns with this plan. We want everyone to understand. We'll be focusing on what's nearest the shoreline first, obviously, and let's not go to a further event. This also affects in a substantial way SAM, because the entire IPS is basically within a half-mile of the shoreline, as obviously is their treatment plant, and it also affects the city of Half Moon Bay. So this is somewhat for board information tonight. I just wanted you all to be aware. I don't want to sound the clarion alarm that this is, things are going bad, but this could be a big issue down the road. And in my discussions with the two members from regional board, I said, this is great that we're having a nice, reasonable conversation here right now. 5 years down the road, there could be two different people at the regional board. They're holding up this plan and saying, hey, you've got to inspect everything within a half-mile of the thing. And we'll be doing endless inspections of our pipelines, through 75% of our system. So I'm going to draft a letter to the regional board in consultation with Bill. We also have special counsel Tess Dunham, who we've worked with in the past, and she's got a good relationship with the regional board, knows the in and outs. We're going to run that by her and just draft a letter listing our concerns. If nothing else, we've got them in writing, we put that on paper, and we can go from there. It's a pretty complicated issue. I sent you the TMDL technical report, which is 100 some odd pages. At the end of the day, though, the real simplistic thing is they're looking at the pollution in Pillar Point Harbor and Venice Beach. In their own report, they say there's not a lot of human sources from that. And yet they throw us all into this big breadbasket of, well, we've all got to do our part. Well, I do my part for a living. We make sure sewers don't spill. So we'll write our letter, but I just want to give your board a heads up on this.
I spent a while looking at the report that you sent us today, and it says in their report, fecal contamination from human sources was detected rarely. And they talk about the potential impact of homeless. And I have to say that if there is any impact, the fact that all those riparian areas near the strip are just used by so many people as bathrooms. And hopefully when the ones built across the street, it will help. And when our park is built, that will help. But you read the whole report and they really have no science. They have no evidence to say that this is a problem. And this is my favorite part. This is toward the end. It says, this analysis does not assess whether the costs of the measures themselves are significant or will cause an economic hardship. Although the Regional Water Board is required to consider economics, it is not obligated to consider the balance of costs and benefits associated with implementation of the TMDL. So
beautiful.
That says they don't have to consider, whether this actually, of course, if it's a problem, we want to fix it. And that's why we have a capital improvement program that is checking pipes and replacing them all the time. And we just did a bunch of TV inspection of pipes, right? And we're going to start a new program of replacing the most urgent pipes that starts in January. I guess we're looking to start it in January. I don't know. Keep an eye on this.
And we'll be implementing our 6-year CIP. And once again, this is what I do for a living. You prioritize the things that could have the most impact on the environment. And, I said that to them in the meeting. I made Barbara's point. I said, where's the science behind a half mile? And that's when I got the runaround. There isn't a lot of science here. It's just, again, they threw us into the same basket and said, here we are. Matthew's got his hand up, Barbara.
Matthew.
Relative to what Barbara just said, I don't think that the outfall for the wetlands on the Burnham Strip is one of the sites where they found any.
Right. Well, we have 2, so.
Well, and there's a creek because remember, this is Pillar Point Harbor, but it's also Venice Beach. And, you all know there's a creek that flows up above Venice Beach or below it. And that's where, they have homeless encampments along those creeks. And that's where you get a lot of this too.
Well, and Denniston Creek is a problem. And the one, I forget the name of it, the one that's by Barbara's Fish House, that's the worst one. And,
It's a problem. I feel like the last time I went paddleboarding out there, I got sick.
Agencies.
I feel like the data's there. I think we don't know what it comes from. I think you talk to people, you talk to locals. There is a population of people in the harbor that do not respect the rule of law, so to speak. I think that everyone could do a better job in terms of doing their part to get to the bottom of it. I think at the end of the day, their report says it, everything, there's multiple factors that kind of come into this area where everything is dumping into it, both because of topography and because of other factors like illegal dumpers, homeless. I think it exists, it's real. It's just we can't identify what the biggest source of. What we can do is work at reducing each source the best that we can. I think that's where I think we got to take with, it is real that it is dirty. There is something that we need to address. We just need to isolate how to go about that, how we could kind of work with everyone, the Harbor District, everyone else to kind of go in that direction, because there is, at the end of the day, a multitude of factors, I think, no matter what.
Well, dogs are a much bigger source. They do not have a lot of evidence that humans are a big problem. Anyway, it's late. We should, unless you wanted to say more, David, I think that was well said.
Let me just say, David, the RCD did that report. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I'll circulate that to the board, just as a refresher, and they kind of identified the sources. So anyway, we know which direction to go, and I just wanted to give your board some information.
Great, thank you. All right, next is consideration of engagement letter with Sector and Company for the audit period ending June 30th, 2020. Approve the engagement letter. We need a motion for this.
Yes.
Someone want to make a motion? Come on, somebody.
So moved.
Okay, Jim, thank you. And a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Roll call, please.
Roll call. Director Dye,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Blanchard,
Aye.
Director Seaton,
Aye.
Director Sukamel. Okay, on motion of Director Blanchard, seconded by Director Clark, motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, public hearing, consideration of resolution approving amended reassessment sewage treatment facility improvements integrated financing district. Let me open the public hearing. And do we have anyone who wants to speak on this matter?
No hands up?
No hands?
We've
All
had
right.
no written comments either.
Let me close the public hearing, and then you need a motion to approve the resolution.
Yes.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move that we approve resolution number 2020-008. A resolution approving amended non-contingent reassessments.
If it wasn't so late, I'd ask for an explanation, but.
I can give it to you tomorrow.
No, I understand it. I had
okay.
a question from someone and I explained it as best I could. So anyway, do we have a second on that motion?
I can second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Oh, no, roll call. I'm sorry, I forget that in the Zoom we have to do roll call.
Director Dye,
Yes.
Director Clark. He's frozen out. I saw his mouth move. Director Blanchard,
Aye.
Director Seaton,
Aye.
Director Sukamel.
Aye.
Okay, on motion of Director Clark, seconded by Director Blanchard, motion passes 5-0.
Consideration of Sewer Authority mid-coastside report. Not a whole lot of big stuff. There's stuff coming up that's important at the Sewer Authority. I will comment that in the last report, our flows were at 20.1%. Montero was at 21.4%, and Half Moon Bay was at 58.5%, which is particularly of interest with respect to sharing. That's how our share of the operating costs of SAM are based on our flow percentages. So we have gone from 30%, being close to 30%, and now we're down to 20%. They gave a report, which Michelle did a very nice. We had a motion, David, on the CPA letter. We had a very nice, Michelle did a very nice report on the discussion about the goats, which came and cleared out a fire break in the habitat areas in front of SAM. And we had a discussion of adding baker tanks, additional baker tanks in before the wet weather comes to act as additional volume to collect flow if there is more flow than the system can handle. And I think the decision was made that the professionals at SAM should decide when and if we need them, but that the board was supportive and wanted to err on the side of security and having them if they are needed. Matthew, did you want to add anything? Is Matthew still frozen?
Yeah, he keeps popping in and out.
Okay. Well, that's about what I have for the SAM report tonight. Moving on to the consent agenda. I have to read all this, right? On the consent agenda, we have the August 20th, 2020 special and regular meeting minutes, the August 27th, 2020 special meeting minutes. Did we cancel the August 20th meeting?
We had two special meetings.
September 7th.
There was a wet weather overflow and
okay. Sorry. The September 24th, 2020 special meeting minutes, the September 2020 warrants, the October 2020 warrants, the July 2020 financial statements, August 2020 financial statements, and the assessment district distribution number 3-20/21 and assessment district distribution number 4-20/21. I have a motion. Does anyone want to pull anything off the agenda, the consent agenda? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Jim, and can we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Can we have a roll call?
Director Dye,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Aye.
Director Blanchard,
Aye.
Director Seaton,
All right. Committee reports. Does anyone?
Super Mel. I didn't get Eric.
Oh, sorry.
All right.
Okay. Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, good. Committee reports. Anyone have a report on seminars, conferences, or committee meetings? Okay, moving on. Attorney's report.
I have actually one small item. The governor signed AB 992, which is effective January 1, and it's an amendment to the Brown Act. And it deals with social media. It does confirm that elected officials or members of legislative bodies can use, and this would apply to PAC too, can use social media to reach out to constituents or members of the public. However, the caveat is that if you post something on social media that is district business, another board member can't give, feedback on it or a thumbs up even, or an emoji or anything like that. So to the extent that, your fellow board members or PAC members actually use social media and post things, you shouldn't weigh in on another board member or PAC member should not weigh in on it. So,
Which is funny because, for everything else, as long as it's not a quorum, like two people can do stuff.
I think the idea is that social media is available to everyone. So you easily get to serial meetings. You're communicating potentially to all the board members how you feel about a particular district business item. So I think that's the logic behind it.
Yeah, they told us about it at SAM too, so it's interesting. All right. Anything else?
No, nothing else from me. Thank you.
Moving on to general manager's report.
Nothing further.
Administrative staff report.
Nothing further.
Okay. Engineers report.
Just what you see in the thing, the highlights there, the Meadow Creek Bridge by the county has been a little bit delayed, which is good for us. It gives us more time to flesh out our plans. And the Naples Beach project, we're going through we've submitted the environmental work to the city of Half Moon Bay, and we're waiting for their response.
What do you mean by Naples Beach? That's
the realignment of the sewer main that'll take the pipe off the Meteor Creek Bridge.
Oh, okay.
And put it across the state parks easement so at the end of that we won't have anything over the bridge.
So that's going into Half Moon Bay for review and approval.
That has already gone into Half Moon Bay. Yeah. For
okay.
Review.
Great.
Yeah.
And the CIP. Our plan to start dealing with some of the pipes that we've identified as the highest priority to replace, it has been somewhat delayed, but will be happening in January.
Yes. So John thinks we'll be going out to bid at the end of the year and start the project in January. So.
Great. Well, it'd be nice to get that going.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Future agenda items.
And Barbara, before I forget, I just confirmed it with Bill. You do not have to read the consent agenda, actually.
Oh, thank you. They
That's
do it
not
at
what
SAM.
Leonard thought.
No, Leonard thought you had to read the checks individually. So.
Well, and Catherine always reads everything that's on it at SAM meetings. So I had never done it before, but I thought, oh, well, if I'm supposed to, I will.
Yeah.
So anything further that we need to discuss? Thanks, everybody. We did a lot of really big stuff tonight. And
yes, we did.
It's exciting to see things moving forward. I wish everything could happen easily with everybody happy. We just try to do the best we can and listen to the community and come up with and make progress and do a good job of listening and creating plans that will make our community better.
Yes.
Yes.
You're here.
Yes, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Have a good night.